here for another episode of Origins, a Creative Journey. Thank you so much for being here, Pancho.
Thank you for having me.
And would you share with us your origin story? Tell us about how you got to where you are creatively.
Of course, everybody started off as drawing as a kid, but I think my main story had started off with the whole thing, going to college. I was a graphic design major, and then life happened. I had my kid, and then basically my parents told me that art is not really a way of a future, that you can't really survive off of that. You can't make money. So there was a gap of time where I didn't touch art. And when I had my first kid, I think around 2000 well, she was born 2001, but 2002, I had a car accident. I was forced to stay home for about 6 months. I was on temporary disability. And then my ex-wife was all like, while you're home doing therapy, why don't you do some art, because we used to do it and used to love it. So one thing led to another, painted my first canvas, and I can shoot that picture over to you of the first one that I ever did. And I started painting. It wasn't like quite the inspiration that I had when I first started. I was just kind of using my own family as muse. I think I started to paint for about 13 years from 2002 to 2000, or maybe not 13 years, 2011. And I was painting with a bunch of dudes like Wobots was in that era. So Angry Wobots, a bunch of other guys you may not know. His name is Nukon, and they're all Hawaii people. I never really expanded out. And I think during the last 3 years of that time, I started traveling to LA and doing like the small, like little LA pop-up stuff, some stuff at like cafes and art galleries. So I don't know if you've heard of an artist named Alfie Numeric. She's from LA side, and I used to paint with her a little bit. I did some stuff with the Filipino festival. I did a couple live arts over there 2 years in a row, and I've ventured off back and forth. And then my divorce hit, and then that kind of hit me tough, and I stopped when I had my divorce. And then I had a 2 year gap, and then had another good friend of mine, or high school buddy, kind of rekindled my art again, and we started a business. And instead of, oh, and sorry, I'm jumping back and forth because I guess I'm like a little clouded. So when I started doing art, it was paintings first, nothing digital, not just like analog stuff. So paintings, canvases, and then pencil and ink artwork, but more canvases and stuff. So I have one on display just to kind of show. This is a newer piece, but this is what I kind of used to do, something like this. So stuff like that. And then when me and my buddy got back together, or got together, I was doing more pencil and ink stuff. And I think it was during the Illustrator generation. So people were more into Illustrator, but I hadn't conformed to Illustrator. So I think Wacom was the latest thing then, before like iPad drawing. And I couldn't convert to Wacom or anything. So I would do a lot of pencil and ink artwork. We had this brand, and more fan artwork instead of original stuff. And I was doing that for a few years, and then he kind of toasted me for a little bit, and I got burnt out, and it didn't end very well. Then I went on another break for about 2.5 years or 3 years, and then I met my girlfriend that I have now, and she kind of re-sparked me to do art again. I started doing art based off my girlfriend's inspiration. And I think that one was around 2018. I started to do art again. And from there, I started to do conventions because I was a little tainted with the whole art gallery scene and trying to do paintings because it was tough. So I started to enter the Comic Con and animation scene because it was more lucrative at the time to not have to fish for customers. And I changed up my business strategy by going with prints instead of having all of these limited editions, and going with open edition prints and having different diversity of different products. And that's what leads me to now, to this current day. I don't know. We can fill in the blanks in between, then you can ask questions. But that's currently where I'm at. Probably skipped a lot of questions that you guys may have had.
All right, dude, I'll take it first. Okay, dude, this is definitely why you're friends with me and Tim. So I love you start out and then like every family member goes, you're never gonna make a living out that, right?
Right.
And so everyone's like, okay, I guess I got to find a real job. Like it's no one ever understands, this can be a real job. And I find it interesting you do this start and stop. I want to go to, so you're in Hawaii, like, dude, and to you, it's nothing. You just come to LA to do art. Like, how
Yeah.
does that? I'm in LA. I don't even, I don't go to San Francisco to do art. You're coming across water to do art. How does that just happen?
I guess I'm motivated and hungry enough to reach a larger amount of population. And I'm thinking, I guess this Comic Con mentality comes in where it's like, if you get one person from this whole attendance of people touching or looking at your art, there's a potential way to make money. And so when I come over to like Los Angeles, I'm thinking about all these people who can possibly be looking at my art and possibly new fans or new customers. And one thing that I believe in myself or have a mentality of is taking a risk. As every business owner does, you have to take a risk in your business, whether it's going to succeed or fail. And me coming across the water, I can only succeed because I pretty much have taken over Hawaii. Like I've maximized whatever vision or visual that I can in Hawaii. Everybody, when I do an event, people recognize me. I don't have any new customers. I don't have any new clients. But when I go to LA, there's always somebody new. Always somebody saying, "Hey, that's new. I've never seen that before. That's fresh." It's a fresh new bunch of eyes, fresh new bunch of customers. And when I think about going to Los Angeles or New York, I'm always thinking these are new people who haven't seen my artwork. These are new people who haven't seen my merchandise. It's a new customer base. That's how I see it. I always take that. I never think of it as taking a risk. I'm just always thinking like, oh, they're new people I'm going to be seeing. So that's how I see it.
That's super cool, Pancho. And I do want to take a step back. So, were you coming over to like LA and New York prior to having taken over, being like a household name in Hawaii? Or was that kind of something like was the travel something that in some ways you sort of graduated to of like, okay, I've fully saturated a market now, now I'm moving? Or was it more of like, as I'm building up my name in Honolulu, I'm also going to go and keep hustling in LA, New York, other places and abroad?
More of the second one. So I never think I'm done with Hawaii because there's always people moving here. It's more of just I'm expanding myself, going to LA, going to New York, kind of like how social media can exploit your artwork if you just have the right channels or the right connection. But then me taking that trip is more like I'm in person. So instead of being on social media, which doesn't always get you the right exposure, I mean, for me, I haven't had any luck. For some people, I see people like, a couple months are sitting at 2,000. I'm laughing at them like, hey, ha, you got low followers. And then next thing you know, in 4 months, they have 10,000 followers. I'm like, I don't fucking understand how that happens. And I grind out so hard. I go to these events in person. I'm promoting, I'm spending money, blasting out my business cards. And I'm only sitting at like 4,000 followers. I'm like, but again, like I was saying, that's that risk you take. And me, I guess actually when I started my business and finding out that you could take trips and then write them off, that was the whole thing. Like, oh, I'll just take a trip. I could just write it off and I can have fun while I'm there. So I'll go to New York and write it off. It's a business expense. And at the same time, I'm taking business seriously and I'm exploiting my business and putting it out there. So that's kind of why I take the trips is just to expose myself out to a different community. Because not everybody's on social media. I always hear people like saying, oh, I don't have Instagram, I don't have Twitter, I don't have this. Okay, cool. dope, here's my business card, check me out.
Dude, I love you, man. So you are definitely a risk taker. The little I've known you, and you're balls to the walls, dude. It's the best way. Like the Hawaiian, like everything's mellow, but you're still just balls to the walls on how you go about doing stuff.
Thank you.
Which is interesting because it's the start and stop. How long is the new start? Let's start with this.
2018 to currently.
Okay, so is this one? Obviously it's the more. Would you consider it the most successful of the restarts?
The first start was all like art gallery, fine art stuff. And I learned that aspect of my life of just painting and doing fine arts and hitting galleries and trying to set that off. And then it died. And then the second part was more product based, more business based. And I'm learning that I learned that part of the art business. And then the third is actually a combination of both. It's fine art and products and business. And I've merged those two together and learned how to incorporate both, but also incorporating traveling and exposing myself to different cities and getting out there. So that was the difference and why I say the third time around has been more successful for me.
Yeah, so I'm hearing that the sort of, even though it might have at the time seemed like a quote unquote like crash and burn or something after, those little other stops, it sounds like those periods were really crucial to your learning and kind of what you've built upon now in this new start. And then adding on like the marketing component of really how do you go and build an art career from this? Would
Right.
you say that's accurate?
Yes, pretty much. Everything's based off emotion. So that's why the stops have happened. Oh, divorce. Oh, emotional distraught. Oh, shut down for a little bit. Oh, break up with your good friend. Oh, another emotional distraught, And so those emotional stops had made me have reflection on what I'm doing. And I think after the first one, I probably could have stopped and gave up, but I didn't because I felt like there's still something there that's unfinished. And so, which brings me around on my third tour, which hopefully is the last, and I'll be able to still continue and make it successful.
Totally. And thanks for being so candid about some of those, really big challenges that kind of knocked you off the horse. To hear you talk a little bit more about the fact that you kept getting back up, even if it took a few years at a time. I think for a lot of people, something like that would just knock them off the horse forever and then they just give up. Could you tell me a little bit more about what kept you coming back, even if you were, taking some breaks and reflection? Like what kept you coming back to the craft?
That's a really good question. I know for sure on the third round, what kept me coming back was it's actually the support. So when you have a good home support that inspires you and motivates you and believes in you, you kind of get this self-confidence that you can do it again and that you have it. So when I met my girlfriend about 7 years ago, she told me, "Oh, I totally believe in you. You got this talent." Um, I was always worried about material finances. Oh, I got to spend money for this. I got to buy canvases. I got to buy t-shirts. And those were things that were starting to get discouraging all over again because I'd relived them in my second time, like, oh, I'm spending money. But the third time, my girlfriend was all like, I believe in you. I can help you if you need the help. And a couple of helps here and there from her, and then me gaining confidence again. I think having good support at home is a very big kicker. And it's a big motivation if you have somebody or if your partner is going to support you, that's the biggest thing to keep you going. Because I think my first time around when I got into my divorce, the only thing that I had going was my kids. My ex-wife had left me and we separated. I didn't have much support and my kids weren't old enough yet to like give me that moral support that I needed. And so it took me a little bit while to get back in. And then when my buddy found me to do the second time around, he kind of boosted me. And then of course he screwed me. And then my girlfriend now, she kept me going. And I think that's, for me, that's what I feel is like the most important thing. And then doing art too. For the time that I was on break and I'd go to Comic Cons as a fan, I'd go to support my friends that were doing art gallery shows. And I'd see some of the people that were doing shows and I would just be like, man, this is what I'm coming to look at. And I'm not talking trash. I was just like, man, I can be doing some stuff too. And I was like, man, there's not much growth here. There's room for an artist like me to still come back. Like I can still come back and do this. Or I'll walk in the Comic Cons and I'm like, man, these guys are doing this, nothing creative, nothing original. They just basically took that off of the internet and just recopied it. There's no style, there's no twist on it. And I was like, oh, okay, there's room for me to come back and flip stuff around. There's room for me to like hit up the art galleries and try to put up some new, fresh art. So that was also a thing. And then my girlfriend would always tell me, man, you could do better than that. You could do stuff like this. So that's how I got re-inspired. And I think all the breaks, they're all a life lesson and they keep me motivated and inspired to look back and be like, man, I overcome that challenge. I overcome that big hump where I thought I couldn't make it. And many times I kind of just wish I could just be a clone and then blend in with the community and not be this certain artist or this artist. Because sometimes I feel like it's a curse and a blessing to be an artist, because every time I think like, I don't want to do this no more, and I pick up the pen and I end up doodling and I'm like, man, what the hell am I doing this? I can't not do it.
Dude, that's so true, Pancho, man. As a creative person, and I think a lot of us run into it, like, I'm done. Okay, I'm gonna watch, I don't know, Rick and Morty tonight. I'm done. I'm never doing this again. And
Right?
then you're like, I can do better than that.
Right? Most definitely. It is not that I'm talking trash about other
No.
people's art. I
Yeah.
just feel like, man, the world is missing me. Like, I feel like the universe tells me, like, it draws me back, like, oh, here's this art, but we know you could do better. And so they send you these signs, like the universe sends you these signs of don't quit, don't give up. I gave you this talent for some reason. And I just keep on continuing with what I have. That's what I feel.
And a lot of your stuff, even as you're telling your story, we'll get a little into this. It's all about like this positive and people helping you and everything else. And it even is reflected in your artwork, like on your wall behind you, the little blue figure. That's your kids. Like,
Oh, yeah. I'll show you guys real quick. So these two
tell the story. Tell the
figures,
story.
there's this one, and then there's this one. These are my own figures, of course. So this is the first inspiration. So this figure, the name of her is Allosaurus. So it's based off my daughter. She's 22 now. But Allosaurus is because her name is Alyssa. But when my daughter was about 3 years old, I used to kind of, what is that? Instead of the iPad, I'd throw on a movie. So I would throw on Land Before Time. And my daughter would watch Land Before Time to fall asleep, or when she was getting very anxious, I'd throw a movie on and then just kind of like make her be quiet. And so after the movie was done, I would see my daughter walking around like Sharptooth, hands all like this, walking around, and she would be like growling, like, "Arr!" And so, which inspired the character of Allosaurus. And so the blue one, my kids are 6 years apart. So when my son was born, his name is Kidzilla, and I've seen somebody else use that terminology. When my son was born at the age of 3 years old, my son was climbing up and wrecking stuff up. He was messing things. And at the time, my daughter had transitioned from Land Before Time to Godzilla movies. And my son, I'd always see him and I'd buy him like expensive toys like Transformers because I was into that. I wanted to fuel my children with the same inspiration that got me going, hoping that, the generation won't be lost. And so my son would just destroy everything. Everything he got. He even got like Tonka trucks. They even still make those. And my son would somehow find a way to destroy it. And everything that we give him, he would destroy. He would climb up and jump off like furniture or in the house. And so hence the inspiration Kidzilla. And if you look at the figure, he's kind of got like a Godzilla-ish inspired like suit. And so the reason these kids are in suits are more of like inner personalities. So the suit itself is an inner personality of the child. It's not actually, the character itself is not a Godzilla. It's just inspired by. And same with Allosaurus. inspired by a dinosaur. The suits can change based on whatever the inner personality, and I have other characters that I've done like that too. So, and yes, these are very personal to me.
That's super cool. I mean, one, those are dope toys, and I wish that everyone listening could have actually seen them. And so we'll have to make sure we link to some of those photos. But I'd love to dive into just your overall inspiration a little bit more. I mean, like those are obviously really personal pieces. Like, where do you draw a lot of the inspiration for? Like, if beyond like kind of pop culture and stuff, but like I hear this very the element of family. Is that accurate or?
Yeah, no, family is definitely a big influence in art in my artwork. So here's another piece I'll show you. So the one I showed you earlier is this big geisha painting right here, and I'll put this in the back. So usually most of my artwork comes from family first. It's, I don't know if you can see that. So this one's actually an inspiration of my girlfriend and her kimono that she wore when she was like, I think 19 or 20. I guess I draw most of my inspiration off things that are more personal to me, because then I can give the quality time and the detail to it. And I actually connect with that art piece more versus like just creating something just for shits and giggles. Most of my artwork, actually, most of my personal artwork or my original artwork, I have more of a personal connection to it instead of just something that had inspired me from watching a TV show. So, which I see the case in like in the Comic Con industry. I walk around and I see dudes that are like drawing Spider-Man in their own way, and it's nothing original. It's like, okay, your inspiration is based off of Spider-Man, but all of my stuff is based off of personal experiences and personal connections. So this is what a lot of my original stuff tend to look like. The inspiration, yes, it's more family, but I also have, I guess, a infatuation, or I love Japanese culture. So a lot of my art you'll see is a lot of my work is inspired by Japanese culture. And hence I got lucky this one, that my girlfriend is Japanese. So I get to double dip with my girlfriend being Japanese and then the inspiration being a part of that.
I have no idea what that's like at all to be influenced by Japanese and then living with a Japanese woman. No, no, no. But I think you're really hitting on something because I agree with you. I'm going to be biased. I don't like going to conventions or anything and say, oh, great, you drew One Piece. Oh, great, you drew Spider-Man.
Right.
Yes, you have mad skill, but I want to see as an artist, your emotion, right? I want to delve into your soul a little, which is why I love your stuff, Pancho. Like it's part of your soul and being, right?
Thank you.
It is a part of your personality, but I'm interested what other influences feed into this artistic style. Movies, comics, TV,
Mm.
things you watch, what other, because art is
What
this,
other?
right?
Yes. Okay, that's a very great question, Chris. So, on top of the culture part of it, one of the biggest inspirations is sneakers. So, I used to be a big time sneakerhead and collector. I worked for Juice's, their in house brand is Clot, and I've always been surrounded by sneakers since my ex wife used to work for Nike Town Honolulu. And just since then, growing up watching hoops, sneakers is like one of the biggest things that's incorporated in all of my art. I cannot stop drawing sneakers to save my life. Even if it's generic or like not even a real sneaker, like I have to have it. I don't know. Maybe it's a Filipino thing because I'm like part Imelda Marcos or something. But but sneakers is a big influence in my artwork, and then pop culture, of course. Animation, growing up watching anime, the whole 80s anime from like Robotech to Fist of the North Star, Dragon Ball Z, I would say, but I wasn't a heavy Dragon Ball Z fan. And then reading comic books, all of the stuff, because I'm an 80s kid. I grew up in the 80s culture, running home after school just to watch Mask. I don't know if you remember Mask, or like there used to be another show that was like very cool, was Cops back in the day. Remember Cops? they're like cybernetic cops, futuristic cops, and they used to run home after school just to watch it. And at 2:30, if I missed it, then I'd catch like Robotech afterwards at the end. So that's part of my culture and a lot of influences that come into my artwork. And I try to like take all of that I grew up with and try to incorporate it into my artwork. On top of that, I think a little bit of graffiti and street art is inspired in there. My senior year of high school, I got hooked up with a neighborhood graffiti crew because I used to pick on a girl in school because I don't know, I didn't, not that I liked her because she just wore funky socks all the time and I teased her. She didn't like me teasing her. So she got her like brothers and stuff to kind of like pick on me. And after that, I started to gravitate towards these graffiti heads because they were like kind of like the outcast gang member guys. And then eventually finding out that they're artists in a sense, I started to follow them and got into graffiti. Didn't do anything too destructive or like I used to do black books a lot. I think I would go to the canals close to my house and do a couple of stuff, but nothing major. So I can't really claim the graffiti scene. I was just more of a street artist, I guess. I don't have any murals or spray pieces that I can claim myself to fame, like how most guys like to brag about, oh, I did this mural or I did this. So I don't really have that.
Okay. Real quick clarifying question. So like you were picking on this girl for her socks, and
Yeah,
then her brothers started picking on you, but are
because I was
those
picking on her.
because you were picking on her, but then are those the guys who you started falling in with to do like
No, no.
graph stuff, or
As
are
a
they...
No, those are a different crew, guys. So, okay, let me rephrase it a little bit. So, I moved to Hawaii in 1992. Um, Before then, I grew up in Northern California, and the only demographic of people I was really exposed to was Caucasian and African American. So, I never really saw like Filipinos or Asian or Chinese people, or even more. I've never been exposed to Samoan people or Polynesian people, to be specific. So the girl I was picking on, she was Polynesian. And I didn't know that when you pick on one Polynesian, you pick on the family. And so I was kind of teasing her. I wasn't being malicious. I was just like, oh, look at those yellow, funky, flowery socks. You know, who wears those? And me coming from California, I was a little arrogant and I was just like, just writing her for it. And I don't know why. And I regret it. But then her big brothers came over with like four seniors coming up to me like, hey, fucking like lay off for her. What the fuck are you doing? And they're like, fucking kick your ass after school. It's like, oh shit. And so, from there, I found out, oh, there's these smoker guys across the street. And I recognized a couple of them because I used to ride the bus with those few guys, finding out that the guys who were driving to school were seniors too, and they were smoking. And I was like, oh, these guys are cool. So I'll just jump in with these guys. And slowly and surely, the guys I knew, I'd gravitate towards them and they'd be like, yo, come hang out with us, across the street from school. I'd hang out with them. And then, slowly I got to know the older brothers. And then I would start catching a ride home with them because we lived in the same neighborhood. Like, yo, do you do art? Yeah, I do art. Okay. We're going to hit up this wall after school. Okay, cool. Let me check it out. I was totally naive about the whole culture. And then that's how I got involved with the graffiti guys kind of by accident. So I use those guys as protection. So when I started hanging out with them and then the girl and her brothers would see me, they were like, oh, we can't fuck with this guy no more because now he's a gang member. So that's how that came to be.
I feel so bad for that girl who got picked on, but it's also such a cool story because now that kind of kickstarted this major influence into your art and kind of where you are now. So I guess
Yeah.
thank you for taking one for the team, random girl with the yellow socks.
Right. But I mean, she lived happily ever after because, at the end of the day, she got her scare tactic in. She got her brothers to scare the shit out of me, and me running away, scared shitless, all white with her four big brothers coming after me, had led me to go, hang out with the graffiti guys unknowingly.
Rick, I love that this whole art thing starts with the sock girl. The best origin story we've had. Yeah.
That's actually funny. Yeah, I didn't actually think that was an origin story. I thought it was like, ex-wife, but actually it goes back to high school.
That's super like really funny, and so interesting because I think oftentimes we aren't, it's only kind of in retrospect maybe that we realize that there's these certain things that happen that were really pivotal or really influential or like, because, at the time you're just like, I just don't want to get beat up. And then
Right.
it ended up being, like this major shift in kind of who you were hanging out with and, your school experience and how you developed as a creative. And kind of going back to maybe some of that developmental stuff to people's, well, I'm actually going to just switch topics. So this is a terrible saying. I apologize to the listeners. But, getting back to what Chris and you were talking about people at conventions who like the classic fan art versus the kind of creating your own stories or take or at least a different style. For a lot of people, I think you go to fan art because it's easy and it sells. And I think, especially as a creative who, you're very entrepreneurial, you're thinking about how are you supporting your family through the art, all this other things. Was that a difficult choice for you to really reject like the fan art and be able to do your own thing? Can you tell me just a little bit more how you went through all that?
I can definitely elaborate because when I first started art, I was doing only original stuff. And then, like I was saying earlier, when my buddy took me in and we started the business, I was actually doing fan art stuff. And the whole mindset of doing it was, yes, it's easy money and I can do something that's already inspired without having to rethink anything and just pump it out there. But this year, I guess I'm taking a step.
I'd love to hear your story on how you've navigated that tension between fine art and your own independent creations.
I think I want to say last year, I'd actually started to see a shift when I was doing Comic Cons. I've actually heard a customer, while she was browsing through the artist alley, say that a lot of people's art looks the same. And me as an artist, I was doing like the Star Wars stuff and I was really pushing hard for fan art because I was in the mindset of just trying to make money. And I was like, I don't want that. And actually, coming home from Comic Cons, my girlfriend would always tell me, you don't have anything original. You're not doing your own original artwork. You're just doing stuff that people are kind of used to seeing, like Spider-Man or Star Wars, but it's not really anything you. It doesn't speak you. So when you get noticed or you get a little bit of fame, do you want to get noticed or fame for doing somebody else's inspiration, or do you want your own? And so, which is kind of a funny question that you say that, because actually mid last year I really started to push more original artwork. Me and my girlfriend went through a little trying time, and she had told me that I needed to change my artwork. I needed to get re-inspired. And maybe a good thing that I should be doing was taking a risk again on my own and risking, investing in myself, putting my own original artwork and taking a risk and try to take a step back from fan artwork. And after having a little bit of, I want to say, realization of my artwork and how it's transitioned, when you start to look at your own Instagram page and you see nothing but like fan artwork and you don't see much of your original stuff, you start to like think about that. And I'm like, I'm not getting known for what I'm actually what I first started getting known for. And I guess I started to realize that I can make it on my own at New York Comic Con when I pumped out a bunch of original artwork I was going through a dark time, and people were actually buying into it and they were commenting and telling me, I love this artwork more. I like to see original artwork. And one of the pieces is this one back here is actually kind of a darker piece for me. And I sold out all of those prints that I had at New York Comic Con and thinking that I was going to sell more fan artwork, but I actually sold a lot more original artwork. And that had kind of re-inspired me and rethink my strategy in my art, that I should be putting out more of my original stuff versus the fan artwork. Otherwise, I would just get lost in this whole sea of fan artists that have no identity. And that's not what I wanted. I wanted to be known for me. And so putting out my own artwork is something I wanted to do more this year.
I just love that. And I love that you're putting yourself out there. And while you were telling the story, it kind of reminded me of, if you ever listen to, I can pick any rock band, but we'll do the Stones because they're the most famous.
Yes.
They did cover tunes. They were cover bands, right? And their manager like, dude, you're never going to get anywhere if you're the cover band. You got to do something original. And
Yeah.
right. It's finding that voice, and it's finding your own voice. And I'd love to hear what's been the hardest part artistic wise, and what's been the easiest part of it, finding your voice and putting on canvas or toys, and how do you work through that?
I think the hardest part about it is because I'm a full-time artist, the hardest part is always thinking about money. Is this artwork gonna put money? Is it gonna sell? And I'm always worried because I'm so used to fan artwork being easy to sell because like I can easily go on Disney Plus and watch like a Star Wars TV show and be like, oh, I got inspired by Ahsoka. I'm just gonna draw an Ahsoka and I'm gonna sell a bunch of Ahsoka prints and make money. But when you are doing your own original artwork, and that's where the risk comes in because I'm doing my own artwork and people don't know what your art is about. They don't see like I'll bring this down and I'll just show it real quick. I did this print. This is an artist proof print on canvas. You can just take a brief look and you can use your own like interpretation of what it means to you. But when I did this art, I was thinking, I don't know if I'm gonna make money off of this, but I'm gonna make it anyways because this is what I'm feeling. Why it's original artwork is easier for me is because it flows from my heart and it flows from my mind. It's easier for me to, and I enjoy it more. I actually enjoy doing my own artwork versus semi cringing doing fan artwork because it's not something I'm like completely proud of because it's not my own inspiration. It's not my own idea. Whereas this one, I can feel proud about it and I can hang it in my room and look at it and be like, oh, this is me. Definitely, this is me. And so when people actually see my art, like at DesignerCon, my setup, I had 2 walls that are just my own artwork. And I kept all my fan artwork in a folder or in a portfolio. So if people still wanted to see something or wanted to have an easy way to purchase art that they can relate to, you can go to the portfolio and look at it. Otherwise, this is me right here. You know, on my walls, this is me. I'm laying it all out there. You can see all my artwork for what it is.
And putting yourself out there is a risk. And just to follow up on it real quick. So you're drawn from inside. The only way I know how to ask this question is rewind. So at last designer con, my mom was like, how come when you're at the booth, we sell more art than when you're not at the booth? I go, because mom, I can have a conversation about the art, right?
Right.
So how do you have that conversation with people? Because you have to. It's from here. Do you leave them alone? Do you let them interpret it? Do you jump in?
That's a very good question. Normally, people ask me the question like, yo, what inspires you for this art? And then when they ask that kind of question, it's easier for me to lead into it. But I'll never really get asked questions about like a Boba Fett drawing or anything. They just normally ask, why that sneaker? I'm like, because it looks cool. Fucking idiot. I think most of the most questions I always get asked is what inspired this art piece? And I'll go into the story and say it to say what it is. And like I can go in and be like, oh, this is inspired by my girlfriend. She sent me this picture of her kimono and I was really interested and I was really excited about her kimono. So I got inspired by the detail and the creation of her kimono and I'll repaint it out in my own interpretation. Some stuff or I like the piece I showed you a while ago, this one over here. This one's actually more heartfelt, kind of like how you were saying that the Rolling Stones had their inspiration. So I hadn't done any new original artwork for a while because I was actually on a creative block because I was too busy doing fan artwork. And like I said, me and my girlfriend, we had a rough patch and I was going through some dark emotional times and I got inspired off heartbreak. I'll just lay it out there. I went through heartbreak. And so the art piece is inspired by losing half of myself. If you can see half skull. So I'm pretty literal. Like I'll just put it out there. There's no reading between the lines. And so if you look at it, the character is kind of half dead. And that's kind of what I felt. And the art piece being half dead and people are looking and they'll ask the question like, why is it half skull? And then I'll just go without much detail. I'll just go into it and say, oh, the character is half dead and there's a little bit of a dark time. And basically, if you look at the actual artwork itself, you'll kind of it's self-explanatory. You'll see broken hearts, you'll see skulls, you'll see tears coming out, and that's how it is. I don't really get normally asked these questions, Chris, so it's a little difficult for me to answer it for you in an educational way.
No, not at all. This is super awesome, Pancho. Maybe broadening the question a little bit might, hopefully this will be a easier question, but what piece of advice would you give to other aspiring creatives who do want to kind of build up their own world and be able to be a full-time artist?
All I can say is never give up. Because I will say, if I did give up off my first one, I'd probably be working for a hotel company still. And I'd be working, the famous terminology. I'll be working for the man, for Uncle Sam, paying his bills and paying taxes. There's no better reward than being your own boss. And I think as a creative, as an artist, being able to whip out your own money, when you create art, that's something that can't be, I want to say, you can't go to a job and do that. You can go to a job and work the 8 hours and you get paid that certain amount. But as a creative, you can create art and there's no limitation to what you can make. And then the fact that you're making money off of or income off of your own creation, like you've created your own money. There's no better feeling in that when you or at a show or at an event and somebody buys an original artwork and the feeling that you get inside, and when those people tell you like, oh, your art is inspiring or this art is fucking awesome, there's no better feeling than that. Because I'll tell you one thing, your boss is not going to tell you, hey, good job, for, I don't know, selling that car or whatever. It's a totally different feeling. So that's my message to other creators, is to never give up. And if you have a dream, keep following it. Go for it.
That's beautiful, baby. And you're right, as a person who's worked enough corporate, yeah, there's no better feeling than what you said, because it doesn't equal to the boss going, good job. Can you stay late?
Yeah, right? Can you pull in more hours?
Yeah. I want to pull on this a little more, because the other part of this is your work ethic is just, it's beautiful. Like, you've gotten into galleries and you're in Hawaii and you've done New York Comic Con and LA, and you come to Designer Con. Now I'm a kid, or a 52-year-old man, and I'm drawing. And I have a stack of paintings on the wall. How do I get into a gallery? How did you get to the conventions? Can you take us through that first step, or finding that gallery or finding that convention? Because that's
Those
scary, man. When you're starting out, that's like, you don't know how to do it. And everybody always just says, oh, it
those
happened.
it's definitely not an easy process, I'll tell you that. I've dumped money into paying fees for going into gallery shows. You pay your fee to get your portfolio reviewed. You go through the doubts of, oh, this fucking gallery is just taking my money because they want me to pay $50 to get my CD reviewed, and then only to not be accepted. What the fuck is that? I've done many of those. I've done a lot of wine and dines where you actually have to go to the gallery, talk to the gallery owners, go to their first Fridays, drink their crappy ass $10 wine and eat their shitty cheese. I've done all of that. And a lot of it is, I hate to say it, a lot of the galleries will hear, and I know it applies on the mainland United States, is it's who you know. It's who are you rubbing shoulders with. And sometimes I hate to say it, it's very political. The art gallery scene wise, I mean, it's I'm friends with Chris. Oh, let me give you a leg in, maybe I'll give you a big break. That's the only way to do it. Otherwise, art galleries are very tough to get into. Not unless you're somebody super phenomenal like Cause or like Ron English, who's already got an established name, who didn't get into that one gallery in particular. But if you're new, fresh off the boat into the gallery scene, it's really tough. Comic cons are a little bit different. I like that it's non-biased. You apply, you get in. If your portfolio is heavy, then you get in. Or if you're original and you have a bunch of original artwork, sometimes you get lucky, you get in. It doesn't always happen, but again, it's the rule of thumb of never giving up. You have to keep trugging at it. You have to keep pushing. I wasn't always lucky every time I applied for a Comic Con. Even one that I've done the year before, I still get rejected. And I'm like, why? I was there last year. Why? What is wrong with this? So I don't know what to say. Is you just keep pushing. Yeah, keep pushing at it.
Good advice. Just keep on the hustle.
Yeah.
Pancho, this has been super cool. Where can people find out more about you, find your art, check out all of the cool stuff that you've been showing us on the video version of the podcast? Where can people find you?
They can go to my website, which is my full name, PanchoAbalos.com, or Instagram is also, but Instagram I've been very quiet this year. So it's Pabalos is my Instagram handle. And right now, only those two. Everything else is kind of inactive. I have a DeviantArt account, but I don't really, and the Instagram is not even upkeep either, but it'll soon be upkept.
Yeah, I can vouch that the Deviant one has not been updated longer than the Instagram one.
Oh, do you stalk that page?
Yeah, I stalk. Babe, I love your stuff. I stalk your Deviant, yeah.
Oh man. Yeah, I'll probably
I'm
put
old
some
school,
new stuff on
baby.
there. That's awesome. Love you,
Okay.
Chris. Love you, Rick.
Oh man. Okay, this is our tradition. How we love to end the show is we always give our guests the final words. Anything you'd like to say, and literally everything's on the table for you to say whatever you'd like to say. And I'd love to thank you again, dude. Big fan and love your stuff. So the floor is yours, man.
I feel like the whole thing was a message for new and existing artists that are out there, because I know that every artist goes through their little dark period. You know, seeing the homies again, seeing Tim, seeing Rick, those guys having booths year after year, not seeing them this year having a booth. And I know that there's other guys out there that didn't have booths that are going through their own personal struggles. You know, keep chugging, never give up. We all got talent. You just got to find what your talent is, or don't give up on your talent if you know you have talent. That's all I can say.
Thank you for joining Rick and myself on another episode of Origins, A Creative Journey, a Designer Con production. Please like this video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, download and listen to us every place you get your favorite podcast. Follow us on Instagram at Origins, A Creative Journey, all one word. Drop us an email for thoughts, ideas, or maybe somebody you'd like us to interview at dconpodcast@gmail.com. And make sure you join us in Las Vegas for DesignerCon, North America's premier annual design convention. All the information can be found, including tickets, at designercon.com. Till then, enjoy your own creative journey.